So I decided to play a game called... This isn't a regular playthrough of the game, but a soul level 1 run. And these are self-imposed rules. The rules are, number 1, no leveling up past the first level. Number 2, beat the game from start to finish at level 1. And number 3, anything goes except real world help. Action summons are allowed as well as in-game NPCs, but no real world help, so I can't summon a friend to help me. And this is how the journey went. With the journey started, I head down to the intro boss where I jump off of a cliff to skip having to fight them. From there, I enter into Limgrave. I make my way to the next grace, light it, and pick up my friend Torrent, who will be my trusty steed for this journey. I make sure to grab the area map, and I also make sure to grab the whetstone knife. From there, I make my way to the Death Touch Catacombs, where I grab my weapon for the game, the Uji Katana. This will basically be my weapon for the entire game, if not most of the game, and I'll explain why. The Uji Katana has a low stat requirement, only needing 11 strength and 15 dexterity. It'll also allow me to add Ashes of War to it and change its passive ability. The level 1 class has these stats, and you'll notice pretty quickly that I don't have 11 strength and I don't have 15 dex. But we're going to pick up a seal that'll fix those stats pretty quickly. I pick up a few smithing stones to level up my katana, and I make my way to a teleporter that'll take me directly to Dragon's Barrow. I head down south, and I stop at Fort Foroth, where I pick up Radagon's seal. This will give me a 5 stat boost in strength, dexterity, vigor, and endurance. This is where the most tedious part of the run starts. This is the part of the journey where I travel through Dragon's Barrow, Caelid, Limgrave, the Weeping Peninsula, and Lunaria of the Lakes to accomplish one specific mission: lighting a lot of graces, collecting upgrade material, and other useful items along the way. I also killed a couple bosses along the way for some quick runes. And I pick up poison, which will be important later. I use a bit of my runes to buy some early Elden drip. I make my way to the next dungeon where I kill the dungeon boss and pick up the smithing bell bear. Now it's time to go back to the round table and level up my katana.
Very well.
Over here, stranger. Got something that might interest you.
I level up my katana, and now we enter the next phase. The hunt. Before that though, I need to explain some quick Elden lore. This is me. Now, to get to the end of the game, I need to grab at least 2 Elden runes and get past the bouncer at the capital city. From there, I need to talk to the king of the city, where he will allow me to use his lift to go to the land of the giants. From there, I will activate the Great Forge and light the Erd Tree on fire. From that point on, I handle a couple bosses and then go back to the Erd Tree where I become Elden Lord. Simple, right? Well, this is where the hunt comes in. In order to get these Elden runes, I need to hunt the demigods, who are Renala, Radon, Rykard, and Godric. The idea right now is to kill at least 2 of these 4 so that I can get into the capital city, but the goal will be to ultimately kill all 4. There are 3 other demigods, that being Morgoth, Melania, and Mohg, but only one of them is necessary to complete this journey. That being said, I make my way to the royal capital to pick up one more bell bearing, and this is where I run into the first obstacle of the game: this magma lizard.
This is my house. Entry, please. He is my neighbor, Nur Sultan Tuliakbai. He is paining my assholes.
Funny enough, I actually beat him in the first try, but I am always nervous at this part because every other run I've ever played, I always run into an issue with him. I don't know why. He's just got my number or something. With that out of the way, The bell bearing grabbed and the katana upgraded again. Now we truly start the hunt. Heading to Godric's castle, we run into the first challenge of the game, who is Margit.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame.
Fortunately, because my katana's upgraded pretty high, I make quick work of Margit. But it did take some effort. I stormed Godric's castle, basically running past everything. Then I finally got to him.
What the fuck is this? I fucking hate this. No.
After that, I buy some new armor, and then I head to Radahn's festival.
The festival.
Before we begin, allow me to paint you the full picture.
The strategy for Radahn is to summon all of the NPCs and keep hitting him until he bleeds and freezes to death.
This is fucking great. I love this. More of this, please.
With both Radahn and Godric dead, I have 2 great runes and can now enter the royal capital. Remember how I got that poison a little while ago? Well, that was for this guy here. Here, you sneak up behind him and you hit him with the...
Yeah, Spider-Man and Freeze in full effect.
With that out of the way, I run through the capital, and then I pick up this important talisman. The shield talisman's effect will help me from being sent to the Shadow Realm in one hit. From there, I go to the Academy of Rey Lucaria, where I sprinted past everything again. Then I finally made it to the chamber that holds Radagon's wolf. It turns out to be way more difficult than I anticipated. But even after that, he was nothing compared to Rennala. Rennala has 2 phases in her fight, the first one being the easiest. For the first phase, all you need to do is hit her students and her protective bubble is destroyed. Once beaten, she starts entering her second phase, which is what gives me the most trouble. I tried again, and again, and again, until I finally beat her. Now I head to Mount Glimmer to fight Rykard.
What a thrill.
Just like all the other areas, I sprint past everything of Volcano Manor and then I finally get to him. I get to what I would consider my least favorite enemy or boss in this entire game, the Godskin Noble. It didn't matter what kind of strategy I used, I still struggled with him. I couldn't read his movements, and I was starting to get frustrated. So I decided that I need something else to help me. I needed a summon. Alright, so your friendly neighborhood Tarnish here to explain this really quick side quest. So here's the map of the lands between, and the summon that I want is right here. Now, in order to get here, I have to go start a side quest with an NPC called Rani. Basically, she's going to make me run around all of the lands between so that I can get access to a lift that's only accessible after progressing her side quest. Once I get there, I'll have to kill a few more bosses until I can finally get to this lift that'll get me access to the summon that I want. So I spend the next few hours going to the manor, killing the manor boss, talking to Rani, grabbing a couple quest items, getting to the inverted tower, grabbing a few more quest items, killing a few more things, and then finally cheesing the Black Knife Assassin to get my best friend, my summon.
Dylan! You son of a bitch.
Now, there's one more thing I need to explain, and it's how to summon the Ash. So, if you look at the Ash here, you'll see that the FP cost is 132. If you check my current stats, you'll kind of see that I don't have that. So, how do I combat that, you might ask? Well, I need this guy for my flask. As the description says, it'll eliminate all FP costs for a few seconds. With that, I'll be able to summon him. And I also decided to get the bubble tier while I was at it, which will help negate a lot of damage on my first hit. The reason I picked this summon is because it has an ability called Blade of Death. This attack will reduce any enemy's maximum HP and give them a burn effect that will eat at their health. I head back to the scene of the crime and I give it another try now that I have my Ash. Unfortunately, I didn't get him the first try, but I did get him on the second try. I head my way to Rykard's chamber and I pick up the Serpent Hunter, which will be my weapon for this fight. First, I put a beat down on Rykard's first phase. Fortunately, with the help of my Ash, we got him on the first try. From here, I teleport back to the capital and fight the Ghost of Godfrey. Luckily for me, it only took a couple attempts to beat him. From here, I make my way over to fight Margot, the Omen King.
Graceless, tarnished. What is thy business with these thrones?
Again, I got very, very lucky and I beat him in a couple of attempts. From here, I make my way to the Land of the Giants, and I pick up the last set of Elden Drip. I head my way up to fight the giant protecting the Great Forge. The giant took a lot more attempts than the others, and my only strategy for him was to keep slapping him until he died. With the giant dead and the Earth Tree set ablaze, we move on to the last phase of the game. The Big Five. Alright, so I'm about to hit you with some cold water and explain my frustration here. So here's the total amount of time for my journey, which was a little over 24 hours. The first half of this was basically collecting gear, exploring, and fighting bosses, and here's the list of everyone I've beaten up to this point. This part, again, only took half of my journey. The other half was dealing with these guys. There is one additional boss here, but I'll explain that later. For now, I head to Crumbling Azula and run past everything until I get to the first of the big five, the Godskin duo.
No, dude! Sup, little bitch?
You can probably tell right away there are two Godskins here, one of them being the Noble and the other one being the Apostle, and these guys really put a beat down on me. My first strategy was just to learn the moves and keep hitting them until I poison them and bleed them to death, but that didn't work really well. So I decided on a new strategy, which was to parry the Noble and crit him, but unfortunately I kept running into the same issue, which was either that the Apostle would kill me when I was focused on the Noble, or the Noble would kill me in one hit. At this point, the Shield Talisman doesn't really help with certain attacks anymore. I decided to start another strategy, which was to try to put them to sleep, but in order to do that, I had to collect some crafting material and a bunch of cracked pots in order to make sleeping pots, which should put them to sleep.
I did not have to Google how to do that. Shut the fuck up.
I went back to the boss and tested one of my pots and found out pretty quickly that the effect wasn't long enough to be considered viable. The other issue is there's a limited amount of Tarina's lilies without having to grind them, and I didn't really want to waste time doing that. At this point, I decided to go back to my parried strategy, and once I had them low enough, use a pot and hopefully I can kill them. Unfortunately, I just kept getting destroyed. Even when I defeated one of them, I forgot that a new one will spawn in right afterwards.
I have crippling depression.
So I kept struggling with this strategy until finally, after so long, I defeated the duo.
Now pay me some fucking money. Cha-ching.
Now on to the next member of the Big Five, who is Malekith. Now for this boss, literally my only strategy was just to learn his moves and kill him. The issue was that every attack basically blasted me in one hit. Even when I got to his second phase, he has an ability similar to my Ashe, which bleeds me to death. So I kept trying, and I kept trying, and I kept trying, until finally I got lucky and sent Malekith to the Shadow Realm. After that, I go to face a third member, who is Sir Gideon. It's funny because when I got to Gideon, I was riding the high of beating Malekith and the Godskins, so Sir Gideon ended up being easy, but he also wasn't as complicated to learn. I just kept my distance, healed, and basically just kept poking him until he died. Alright, now I'm going to hit you with some really juicy prequel head lore, if you will. Godfrey and his army waged war and defeated all of the enemies who opposed Marika. With his purpose fulfilled and the guidance of grace lost, he and his warriors were exiled from the lands between, making him the first Tarnished. And since we are also Tarnished, it's easy to assume that we were one of Godfrey's warriors fighting alongside him. I mean, how badass is that? And now we must face him.
Long and hard didst thou fight, Tarnished warrior, upon my name as Godfrey, the first Elden Lord.
My only strategy for this mighty warrior was to learn his moves and kill him. He didn't have a moveset that was extremely devastating, so I just needed to be patient and learn the timing for everything.
I've given thee courtesy enough.
The second phase is where I actually start to get really nervous.
Now I fight as Horror.
Eventually, I laid the Elden Lord to rest.
Thy strength befits a crown.
With Godfrey defeated, we finally moved to Radagon. Now here is where a large chunk of my time went to, was trying to defeat Radagon. I only had one strategy at this point, and it was to learn and perfect all of his moves. I was making a lot of mistakes, and I just kept falling for moves or mistiming everything. So I decided I needed a better way to dodge his attacks more consistently. So my answer to that was getting an ability called Bloodhound Step. This would give me a larger dodge window to avoid Radagon's attacks. With this ability, I started getting much more consistent, and eventually I did get to beat him. But I still had another phase I had to deal with, which was the Elden Beast. Here, my only strategy was to learn his movements until I was lucky enough to beat him. It took a lot of effort, and it took me having to perfect Radagon to even get to the Elden Beast. It did take me a lot of attempts, but eventually I got really lucky and I beat him. With all the bosses defeated, I'd become the one true Elden Lord.